Dzień dobry, cześć everyone. I'm Max from Canada, and I have been living in Thailand for most of the last 10 years, also 1 year in Cambodia in between. So I think that I have a unique perspective to react to this video. 1 year in Warsaw broke me by Where West. First year is usually the honeymoon phase, so let's see what he has to say about it. Let's go. Go subscribe to his channel.
1 year in Warsaw completely changed my life. One of the reasons why I love living in a city with 4 seasons is because every season has its own vibe. And just as the world changes, we too change as people in every single season. Each season in Warsaw forced me to examine a different relationship in my life. But don't worry, this one has a happy ending. So because the cost of living here in Warsaw is significant,
This is going to be interesting because I'm from Canada where we also have 4 seasons. So I'm interesting to know what he's going to say about the different season in Warsaw.
significantly more than what I was paying in Krakow. I had to work super hard, so I was hustling a lot. I started a new series like the Polish Music Smash Your Trash on top of still producing 1 to 2 videos per week for my channel. Felt like it took a pretty big toll on my mental health. And I think it was also just the energy of being in the middle of the city. To me, it always makes me feel super antsy and like I always have to be doing something. I can never really relax. Everybody seems to be working at the gym, going to an event, or on vacation, right? Everybody always has somewhere to be. I got caught up in the energy and I was going out a lot because I wanted to see the city. I was meeting a lot of people. So there's this idea called mimetic theory by Rene Girard, which talks about how our desires are actually not our desires, but we take on the desires of the group. So based on whichever environment that you're in, you naturally
I guess that's why the first time that I came to Thailand, I was living in Bangkok, and after like 8 months, I was spent. And I went back Canada for 3 years. And then I came back to Thailand a second time. I met Suji, and I've been living here in Thailand for most part of the last 10 years since, because the expectation when you arrive, you want to do everything, you want to follow your friend, and you get into a lifestyle that is not you. And for me, the city was not for me. So when I decided to go more in the countryside and relax a little bit, there's still gonna be stress, especially as a YouTuber, because you have like it's not fixed income, right? Every month is gonna fluctuate. It's still a lot better than all the noise of the big city and the influence and the feel to that you need to spend money all the time. So I kind of understand where he's coming from here.
will change to fit in with that environment, right? Because a lot of human behavior is paying attention to the people around us so we can see how we should behave. I don't think this happens to us consciously. It's not that we're different people in all of these settings. These environments bring out different parts of us. When I was growing up, my family really believed in this idea of feng shui. It's like a Chinese Buddhist principle where the energy of your environment has an effect on your life. Every little thing in our home mattered. The way the bed was positioned, where you would sleep, even what direction your head is facing. And this is why when you reorganize the furniture in your room, it almost feels like a completely different room. So sometimes when you're
This is so interesting because if you have been following Suji and I channel for a while, you would notice that the background has changed quite a few times, right? Sometimes we are this way, which is where our bed is. We point there. Sometimes we change direction, and we change maybe 3 or 4 times the direction of the React setting in the room, because I don't know how to explain it. He's explaining it better than me, but there was something that was like, oh, we need to make a change because it's getting too routine. It's really hard to explain, but I kind of understand what he's saying. And right now, the setup, I'm kind of getting like the feel that I want to change it, but I'm not quite sure what I want to do, where I want to sit, and everything. So I kind of get it, and it's interesting that it happened to me too, the same way that it kind of happened in the video. It's interesting.
your life is feeling stagnant, introducing some form of movement can really help. So that could be moving apartments, even moving apartments in the same building has a really big effect. It can be travel. It could be just being out there and being a lot more social than normal. So
Suji and I, in the last 8 years, 10 years that we live in Thailand, we changed maybe 5 times. We changed rent after a year most of the time. And now we've been here for 2.5 years, and it's the longest that we've been in one place. And I would say I don't want to move again. There's a lot of things to move, and we're getting used after 2.5 years to the routine here, and I feel like we're comfortable here. So hopefully we can stay here longer.
After 4 months in the city center, I realized that I wanted to move. It wasn't easy to make relationships with the other people living in my building. Felt like everyone was kind of focused on their own lives. So I found this co-living building in Praga. Co-living buildings are amazing because it allows you to have interaction with people without even having to try that hard. I know pretty much all of my neighbors, and I personally like living in a community, especially around the winter when you have people around you that you can hang out with. I think it makes things a lot better. In this fall apartment, it seemed like opportunities with women seemed to appear everywhere. Like I wasn't even searching that hard. I would just go to a random event or hang out with some friends, and then I would meet a girl. They would reach out to me. A lot of times the girls would even ask me out. During this time, I started talking to this Polish girl who lived in Belgium. She was everything that I wanted in a relationship. We were able to talk about conflict in a mature manner and work through it together. We were even able to work together. And we also had this like mutual respect for each other too. You know, she really was the perfect girl. She started a new job, so during this time, communication became a lot less frequent. And because of my situation with my residency, I couldn't just leave and go and see her, right? She had to always come to me. December is a special month for me because my birthday is there, but you also have Christmas and a New Year's, and all of these holidays.
It's hard for everyone to date, but I would say as an influencer, especially when you work with your wife, it's so difficult because you see each other almost 24/7 because you work together and you're literally together at home all day. And I would say if I had to do it again or just choose, I would make sure that Suji and I can have a different job, like doing different things. Because doing together 24/7, yeah, it creates conflict, and then you have nothing to. You cannot just go to work and refresh your mind. You're stuck with the same person in the same room. So I think that's why you see so many like couple on YouTube that break up. Most of them break up because it's been together so much without any break that can destroy a relationship. But I think the way to counter that is doing what I'm doing right now. Doing more reaction alone. So Suji has more time for herself. Right now she's learning Swedish, etc. And for him also, he's an influencer. And if you want to have a girlfriend and bring her to his content, he's going to need to be careful because get really, really draining. That's just my opinion.
I was forced to spend alone. It's kind of worse being in a relationship knowing you can't see your partner instead of just being single altogether. I think the loneliness gets heightened during the holidays when you're a foreigner, right? Because when you see all of your friends going home and spending time with their family, it makes you realize how lonely you actually are. Also, during my birthday weekend, 3 different women asked me out. I don't know why this always happens. Girls always seem to come when you're in a relationship, right? It made me ask if like this relationship had a sustainable future and if it was really based on any foundation, right? Because I have no problem defending my relationship. I'm a monogamous guy. If I don't really have anything to defend, then what's the point? So I decided to break up with her. And even though she was a genuinely amazing woman, I knew at the end of the day, it was the right thing to do. The season
also like that he said like a lot of people came to him when he was engaged or he was with this woman because they wanted to be with him. It's because when you are with someone, you are kind of more confident and you're more nonchalant. You're not really looking for a relationship. So the girls are attracted to your nonchalance. They are attracted to you not trying. When you're single, sometimes as a man, you try too much and it put off a lot of women. And him being with someone, he didn't try to be with another girl. So it attract a lot of women because of his like quiet confidence. And that's just my theory. Why men that are engaged often women are more attracted to them.
In this apartment ended abruptly when I had a situation with one of my neighbors. Around the holidays, I was receiving noise complaints from the guy that lived below me, and I apologized for the noise. I asked him, hey, tell me what's making the noise so I can fix it. He didn't say anything specific, and he said that he was just sick of me as a person and that I needed to watch out. So on Christmas Day, I was playing music in my apartment, and I received a message from him saying that this is your final warning. I was very confused. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I received a message.
You were already loud for months. I already warned you 2 times. If you want to be loud, go somewhere else. If you want to celebrate Christmas, Go make party on common room. I don't care.
Message from him saying that this is your final warning. I was very confused. I'm like, what are you talking about? Then he literally comes upstairs, starts banging on my door and screaming at me, telling me to come outside. And since it was Christmas, there was nobody around, and I almost considered calling the police. But I talked to administration about it. I was forced to move to a different apartment in the same building. And just like that, this season came to an end. January and February here in Poland.
Well, I'm not gonna have that problem because we don't have any immediate neighbor. The only conflict that I have with the neighbor here is that, well, it stopped 2 years ago, but at the beginning, the fence was really bad around the house, and our dogs, sometimes some of them escape and they kill the chicken. So CJ and I don't know how much is it in zloty, but we spend about 2,000 US dollar just to pay for the dead chicken of the neighbor over the course of a 6 month period. Why? Because some of them were fighting chicken, so they are worth quite a bit, and we had to reach settlement with the neighbor because it's her dog fault, right? So we had to fortify our wall quite a bit, but the neighbor are not mad at us. I mean, if you make merit and you made your mistake and you pay the people for bothering them, they're not gonna be. The neighbor are fine with us.
Are the worst because after the holidays finish, you're just stuck here in this like really cold weather, which I don't mind, but the short days are really, really hard to deal with. Like by 3 p.m., everything's already dark. What was interesting is as soon as I moved into this apartment, my divorce was finally finalized after almost 3 years. Literally all of the opportunities with women just closed for some reason. Every time I would try to ask a girl out, or if I were talking to a girl, it would just not work out for any reason at all. So I interpret it as God telling me that this was not the season for that. On the bright side, during this time, I had a lot of achievements in my life. So I finally reached 100,000 subscribers on my channel.
Well, the reason why winter is tough is because, first of all, the temperature is quite bleak outside. It's not sunny. People are usually more depressed because when you lack the sun, there's not a lot of lights. Your mood is usually more down, right? In Canada, we call that the winter depression or seasonal depression, where during the winter there's a clinical term for it, right? And people are more depressed, less likely to go out, less likely to find someone to be with, and it's exactly that. And 100,000 subs, we reached that on our main channel. Some of you don't know that we have a main channel.
You guys can see the plaque right there. I'm very proud of that. I'm gonna be honest, the week that I hit 100,000 subscribers, it was like the most depressing week of my life. All of my friends around me were happy of the achievement and they were all congratulating me and all calling me, but I didn't receive any calls from my family. It made me question the reason why I did all of this. The fact that I was here by myself and I couldn't leave the country made me realize like how alone I was. This whole entire time, I was pretty upset at God because everything that happened to me with the divorce in my previous church just put such a sour taste in my mouth. I never really lost.
I'm a bit surprised that he says that he's looking for the validation from his family for reaching 100,000 subscribers. My parent watch my YouTube, but I don't see getting at 100,000 subs as that big of an achievement. When I reached 100,000 on our other channel, it was okay, but subscribers and views are very different. You can have 100,000 subs and not get that many views per video, which we have views on our other channel, but we have views on this channel too, almost as much. So it doesn't mean what it used to mean having a subscriber on YouTube. Views are way more important.
Lost faith in God. So after this season of confusion, I felt called towards prayer. And soon afterwards, I felt the desire to start checking out some churches. I realized that it's hard to find one church that fulfills all of your spiritual needs. So I checked out a few churches and here's what I found. The first church that I went to was City Church, and their pastor, Pastor Scott, is a kind man, but he's a little too soft-spoken for my liking. You know, I like my leaders to have a little bit of strength with them, and I felt like he was just a little too nice. However, they have an Nigerian elder there who plays guitar, Neo or something like that, and that guy, when he preaches, has so many bangers. That guy is so wise, and I like going to events where he speaks because he's able to talk about very deep ideas without sugarcoating it. However, that congregation is mostly African. If I'm going to be living in Poland, I want to go to a Polish church, and nobody there spoke Polish, right? So I was like, okay, I don't think this is the community for me. And I went to this church, Warszawa Uczniowie. which is a branch of the ICC. There's a lot of controversy around them on the internet talking about how they have a lot of cultish behavior. They have some questionable, radical practices. However, my experience with them has been mainly positive. I really like that there's a lot of young people that are on fire for Jesus because they have a big focus on discipleship. They have a big focus on community, and they're always throwing events, so it's very easy to meet people. I have been able to develop relationships with a lot of people in that group, and I think they're all really, really nice. And many of their journeys with God is coming from an honest place, and I feel like their faith is true, which is something I respect a lot. However, some of the downsides is that I feel like a lot of their expectations for attendance are quite high, and they can come off as controlling or very pushy in a lot of ways. And this is why I think they get the reputation for being cultish, because I even felt it myself. So I went to another church called Echo, and I was actually really impressed by them. They have a big focus on family and kids, and if I have kids, this is the church that I personally would want to put them in. I also think they have the strongest worship team that I've seen. They have this girl on there that sounds just as good as the girl from Elevation Worship. However, I felt like the message of the preaching was very like feel good Jesus, you know, that Jesus is amazing, Jesus loves you. But I feel like it was a very surface level version of a relationship with God. So I went to one of the biggest churches here, SCH Pulnots, and it's actually the mother branch of my home church, Punie. And I thought that they were going to be similar, but it was so different. It felt just like a big corporate mega church. It kind of showed everything that I hated about corporate churches, if that makes sense. The production was incredible.
Damn, he's only saying negative thing mostly. Those churches are all different, but this is like almost like for profit now, the church. And it's funny, in America, there's a things where people often give 10% of their salary back to the church. And there's a lot of controversy because people don't know where the money goes. Always a big scandal in North America about how the money from the church is used. And there's a lot of scandal, fraud, and he's probably mentioning this somehow when
Incredible. You
that.
had this really nice stage. I don't know.
Like
to me,
corporate?
it just kind of felt like it lacked the Holy Spirit. There's this woman there who was getting married extremely quickly. She was dating this guy for like 2 months, and now they're engaged and they were going to get married in like the next week. I was curious about it, right? Like, I don't judge people's decisions. I was just asking a bunch of deep questions about the relationship and how much you know about him, because, you know, these are all important questions that people normally ask before they get married. And instead of telling her the truth, all the people around her just encouraged her or said that they would pray for her, but none of them had the courage to ask her these tough questions because they didn't want to rock the boat, and they were more concerned about the appearance of like keeping the peace rather than actually giving her guidance. Because to me, it personally felt like the guy was using religion to kind of manipulate this girl. But that's just my opinion. You know, I didn't try to discourage them from the wedding. I just wanted to make sure she knew what she was getting herself into, and they ended up getting married anyway. So I'm curious to see how that works out. So when I start praying again, I prayed for 2 things. I prayed for community, and I prayed for an opportunity to play music. And I found this church that was literally 5 minutes away from my apartment. The first service that I went to, I went to go get coffee, and this man approached me. He was also divorced, and I told him that I was a professional pianist and I'm looking for opportunities to play. He invited me to play with them, and I did such a good job that the worship leader from the church asked me to be a part of their 15-year concert. And during that time, I was able to build relationships with the other people on the worship team. But the event was like so large. There was like hundreds of people that went there. They had so many volunteers. They had these big media teams, and I think I did a really good job of my performance. I feel like this is where God planted me. I sought the Lord, and he heard, and he answered. Pros is that because it's so small, everybody knows each other, and it's a lot more intimate. You can actually build relationships there. And I feel like the people there are coming from like a genuine place of service, and they're actually really great people. Also, because it's so small, your behavior is a lot more accountable. They also seem to be heavily music driven, which is important to me as a musician. And this is something people don't talk about. Christian church produces some of the best musicians in the world. So after the concert, I was trying to figure out.
But this is interesting because it goes to show that your passion in life and your hobbies is what drawn him to that church first. But let's see, maybe he has negative thing to say about it too.
Figure out what everything meant. While I was praying, God put in my heart to reach out to 2 people, my ex-wife and the man who sent me the death threats. God told me that I had to apologize for my part forgive them, and tell them that I would be praying for them. The purpose was not to restore these relationships, but it was to finally make peace with it. When I reached out to my ex-wife, she expressed to me that our dog had some skin problems and the treatment was a little bit expensive. So I asked her how much money she needed, and she was very clear to me that it was not her intention to ask me for money, but I told her don't worry because God put it in my heart to send her some money. So I sent her like 1,200 Colombian pesos, which is around 1,200 zloty. 1 hour later, I received a sponsorship request for $1,200. You cannot make this up. Saw God working in my life, and that gave me the sign that I was on the right path. And I was able to close a chapter in that part of my life and now move on with whatever comes next. So now my life is in a pretty good spot. Everything is like nice and stable, and I'm trying to reevaluate what my relationship with God looks like.
Bro, I'm sorry, but that part with his ex-wife, ain't no way I would have sent any money. Are you kidding me? There's no way that the dog has a problem. Oh my God. I'm sorry, but this feel like I'm not gonna say what I think, but
evolve, our relationship with God also evolves. A lot of times people seek God when they are running away from something or they need something from God. If you guys have been following me for a while, you guys know that when I was in Colombia, I also had a similar journey. However, at that time, I feel like I was running away from something and I was really pursuing the faith more for my ex-wife than I was doing it for myself. And that's why I'm very hesitant to say that I am a Christian publicly, right? Because I do believe in Christian values. However, there are so many problems and issues that I personally have with most Christian churches that I've been to, with hypocrisy, people using religion to manipulate others, a lot of bad stuff. Christians aren't perfect either. And I think it's also important to be asking difficult questions about your faith. In a lot of Christian settings, people just say God is the answer for everything, but people don't really think deeply about why they believe what they believe. I have a lot of doubts about my faith, and I think most
honestly,
that I'm here
I think he was more, the way that he speaks, it's as if he was looking more for a community that he can relate to, for hobbies, for passion, for things like this. And then the Christian thing become like secondary to like finding a purpose and a community that you can relate to. That's the way that he expressed it to me. So the last part about the religion, it's not really for me. I don't think I will ever find such community because it's just not for me. I like sport, I like YouTube, I like music. There's stuff that I like, and I can find this community in places that not necessarily mean that it has to have a religious component to it. But I understand where he's coming from, and I like his thought process and perspective. So